Hey everyone, welcome to my behind the scenes of my cartoon for The Living Tombstone, Sorry Jack, The Living Tombstone remix. Before I start, I just want to mention that I have released an EP today of my own music with my friend Rob. It's called Sunspot EP. You can learn more about it in the description, and I'll also talk a bit about it at the end of this video. I wanted to show this off because it's something I'm really happy with, but I hope you enjoy the behind the scenes first, and then we'll roll into that afterwards. Today I'm going to be doing a video showing you some of the steps that went into making my cartoon for The Living Tombstone called Sorry Jack. I'm going to go just delve right into some project files, show you some animatics, and just give a bit of background as to, how I do things. Just to give you a general idea of how this cartoon came to be, basically, Tombstone approached me last year about possibly working on a music video. Then Buck happened, and then afterwards another opportunity came along for a different music video, and so we chose, I chose to do this music video. I didn't ask him to do it, he just approached me, and I'm really thankful that he did. I was sent a version of the song which was unmastered, but was finished. It gave me a good idea of when I was putting together the pieces for this, for the storyboard and for the ideas, that I could have something to reference straight away. Additionally, the storyline for the cartoon, the general idea and the base plot going through, I turned that into the story that it became. Before I delve into any files, I'll just say the tools which I used were Flash, versions CS3, CS4, and CC. The reason why it was fragmented over 3 different versions is because I think it's important to kind of have backups of not only your project files, but of your programs, because if one thing stops working in one version of Flash, it most likely will work in another one, and that happened quite a lot during this project, but luckily I had multiple versions of Flash installed, so I could just bounce around. But be careful, because some versions of Flash you can't save back. So for example, any changes I made in the project file that was saved in Flash CC, which is the latest version, could not be saved back to Flash CS3 without me going back within each version of the program and saving to the version below. For that reason, I think it's important to kind of stay within the boundaries as much as you can, but for me, I was on a time limit and I had a job to do, so I kind of had to use the tools that I had with the time that I had and make the best work possible out of it. And if you feel comfortable kind of bouncing between programs, then there's not much harm in doing it, in my opinion. I'm not connected to my tablet monitor right now, but this demonstration will give you a good idea of what I do in the process of after I've got the ideas. Basically, I would make a new layer, I would add the track to that particular layer, then I would, make the file the exact length of the track, then I would literally go, so say the audio would be on that track, I would basically go along here, play along, and then every so often just stop where I feel that there's a necessary change. Space it out based on, a lot of it's based on the beat. Things happen on the beat a lot in the music videos that I like to make, which I feel makes them a bit more engaging, but you get the idea. It goes along, so this, I don't have my thing plugged in, but you get the idea, so yeah, it's not in time or anything, but you get my idea of how I actually put together those things, like the full process. One thing that I will show is my Flash settings, because these obviously aren't my normal ones, these are the default ones. Sorry Jack was animated at 25 frames per second, which was a new thing for me, because I'm actually used to recording at animating at 24 frames per second. For Sorry Jack specifically, it was 25. The reason that I did 25 was one, because I wanted it to be a bit more fast and punchy, given like the speed and the intensity of the track. Also, I wanted to try something new because I had never animated at that frame rate before, and the deal was made based on the fact that it was 25 frames per second, so everything kind of just fell into place from there. Now, this particular animation I made at 720p in the Flash file. The main reason I did that was because I didn't want it to crash. Flash has a very big problem with crashing, so for any new animators coming into it, your computer is probably not shit. It is the fault of Flash most of the time, because I have a very powerful Mac, and I've used previous PCs and Macs which are very powerful computers, and they've all crashed in the same points. If you're using an older version of Flash, surprisingly it crashes less. In my opinion, it varies. That's why sometimes I think it's important to have multiple versions of Flash installed. I'll go into that in a bit. So that's the reason why I animated it at 720p. I didn't want it to crash. If it was a 1080 file, the amount of objects moving and going on in that file would have most likely crashed it more often. And even at 720p, the file consistently crashed at export, which is a bad thing. I had to actually move on to a different computer to export it. Say I've done the storyboard, I would save it, I would export it as a movie file, as a SWIF, and then bring it into a program called Swivel, which is a very fantastically useful tool for turning SWIF files, which are SWF files, into MP4s or other media files. So this allows you to use them in video editors perfectly. There's no frame drops, there's no nothing, it's absolutely perfect every time. It takes a little long to do it because basically it has to go through and render each individual frame as a JPEG and put them in a proper sequence based on the frame rate. So the reason why I did it in 720p but the actual animation is in 1080 is because Flash files contain vector images, which when you scale them up, they don't lose quality. So Swivel is smart about this and can take your entire animation and stretch it up. And it also has a handy dandy tool of smoothing out bitmaps. It's not 100% perfect. If you use a lot of bitmaps in your animation, I would do it at the resolution that you actually want it to be, but for very subtle things like the few bitmaps that I use, it's perfect. So I went through and made the storyboard, and after that I turned that into an animatic. I brought it into Adobe Premiere, I let everything out, I added a time code for Yoav to just see what time everything has. So this is the first thing I sent to Yoav based on, you know, his ideas, my initial drawings. And I'm not going to play the whole thing, but you get the idea. Very simple sketches I started off with, quite a bit of tweening, just to get the idea across. Not a lot of in-between frames, but really just something, yeah, that you can see some changes based on the original design. But if you put it side by side next to the actual animation, they look very similar, and that's because, you know, I think I did an okay job with the animatic to get across my ideas, and I didn't have to change a lot. And yeah, so this was the first step in actually making the cartoon. So after the animatic was approved and things, you know, were suggested to be changed, since this is client work, there's most likely going to be changes that are going to be made during the process, which is what I've learned, which is perfectly fine because, you know, you're making it for someone else. I went through and did some line work. This is actually an old file I found. Yeah, you see the basic lines, not much coloring, but yeah, the animation's there in its, you know, in its form that it will be before coloring has happened. This is kind of the next step, really. So the line art obviously comes about by taking your, you know, the animatic that we saw before. This is probably a very bad way of showing you because I don't actually have the files of the original animatic on top of the new files. Due to the fact that there's already so much going on in that project file. If I bring you up to this point, you see that basically I took this drawing. If we imagine that this particular drawing was the original sketch that we had back there, I would take it and I would turn it to a grey color, and then I would make a new layer, lock that layer down, take a darker color like a dark blue or a black, and then go over it properly. You can see that I think I did an okay job with the line art on this given the time. A few issues here, which aren't really going to be seen, given that your animation is going to be viewed kind of at that length. You can't really see the very finite issues. Although I think I did an okay job. Yeah, there's stuff like this. If I had more time, I might go back and change things like that, but again, you can't really see it. And yeah, basically, I did that for the whole thing. I added in-betweens, because a lot of, if you look back at the, at this, a lot of it's kind of missing, frames, because it's just getting the idea across. So a lot of, it's just kind of skewed other frames to get the idea. Yeah, that's a good example. So I added some more in-betweens to make it flow a bit better. But yeah, the key poses were already there, so it's just working against that. If you're gonna take anything from this, maybe don't take my poses, because I don't think I do a particularly good job with the poses. Once that is done, I went on to doing the coloring for the actual backgrounds and the work itself. So this isn't the last project file. This is the project file which I started to do character coloring. Usually I would animate characters first before backgrounds, and then have the backgrounds complement the characters and make sure that it doesn't look like shit. If I had more time, I would have spent, going about making the palette something a bit more pleasing to the eye. But I kind of like this character. I like the gradient in the hair. I think it looks kind of pretty. A couple other insights. I did things like this, basically pulling up Twitter on Google Chrome and then using the inspect element tool to change the text. Not too difficult. This was made taking an actual BuzzFeed page and then kind of manipulating it. So change it to clickbait feed, use the same fonts, stuff. It was cool. I enjoyed making this stuff. That is just a Photoshop thing. It was meant to look like a traditional kind of newspaper or newspaper website. So after that, I basically went, and this is the raw Flash file, which was converted from the Swift file. So you see there's no like effects or anything. This is before it's pulled into Premiere and After Effects to kind of add those extra effects. And if the cartoon stayed like this, it probably would be pretty bad. It's very pastel, which I like, but at the same time I think it would be missing something if it didn't have those kind of vignette effects. I don't have the After Effects file, so they're a mess anyway. But yeah, this is actually the director's cut version, which actually there's more distortion on the like the drops, for lack of a better term, and there's also a few other changes which I won't go in. But I actually kind of like this. I think it adds a little extra little element, but I can understand why Tomb wouldn't have wanted that, because I do agree it's quite harsh on the eyes. I didn't want to give his audience seizures, I guess. So I hope that gave you a good insight into like the behind the scenes of the making of my cartoon Sorry Jack Living Tombstone remix. I keep forgetting to mention that this was originally a song by Scratch21, and the original music video was done by Jan Animations, who is an awesome guy, and I want to talk to because he's really swell. But if you have any other questions about the process or just questions in general, then feel free to leave them in the comments or on my Tumblr. There'll be a link below. And last thing I want to mention is that I've recently been making some music of my own. So if you like BrainstormAlex and you want to support my work, then consider buying a Sunspot EP, which is the first EP from Flyover, which is a project that I'm a part of with my friend Rob. I'm so proud of what we've been able to do, and really the music videos have inspired me to kind of make my own music, so doing that process, and who knows, maybe we'll make a music video for Flyover one day. I'm not forcing you to, but if you want to have a listen, then you can check out the Bandcamp below. The EP just came out today. If you like it, then you can download it from the Bandcamp, but I would recommend buying it on physical, which is just gorgeous. I mean, the art looks fantastic on the front, and the CD, especially the print, came out perfectly. Yep, they're on limited supply, and I'm also doing a kind of even more limited supply of signed copies, which will include a doodle from me, if that makes it any better. All of it's on the Bandcamp, so I recommend you check it out. Apologies if the physical versions have run out by the time you're watching this video, but if you're interested, we could possibly do another print if there's that much interest in it. So I'll leave you with a preview of the tracks on Sunspot EP, and I'd like to thank Living Tombstone once again for letting me do this music video, and I'm just so happy that it hit 1 million views. It's fantastic, and I look forward to making more cartoons and music videos in the future. So yeah, take care guys.